BMW E46 S62 V8 Swap update video. So I've been driving the car, testing everything out and getting all the bugs ironed out of it. It is a very fun car. It is powerful, quick, and loud. What else could you ask for, right? Anyway, so we have a properly working traction control or DSC system that all works. Basically, all the original modules work. They've been coded and everything works properly now, so that's awesome. It's just more of an OEM build whenever everything works happily, you know. There have been some revisions within the engine bay and also within the interior of the car, which I can't wait to show you. And also this hood, as you can see, it's not as clean as it previously was because this is a different hood. Doing some testing, I went back to stock hood latches, so no more of those race latches, you know. Long story short, my hood, it actually flew open on me while I was driving because I forgot to latch the hood latches. Totally my fault. It's whatever. So I got a cheap hood. It's very structurally sound, just dirty, but the clear coat is totally screwed on it, and it's just roughly cut for now to clear the plenum of the S62. And whenever it's fully shut, oh Jesus, there we go. You can see the engine sticks out quite a bit. Now from up here, it doesn't look that tall. You come down here, you can see the S62, which sticks up. We're talking a solid inch sticking past the hood surface. A lot of people were telling me to get an M3 hood. The power dome, which is the hump of that hood, it will not fit. It is not tall enough. I know it looks to be on camera, but I'm telling you, in person, this is pretty dang high above the hood surface. So the M3 power dome would not work. Now this hood, it may not look the best, but for now it is something to at least get me to drive the car. I plan to wrap the hood. I found a company, Avery Dennison. They make awesome wrap, and their one metallic silver is very close. I wrapped my indicators right here in their metallic silver. As you can see, it's a very close match. The car is dirty, so don't mind that, but it is a pretty dang good match for what it is. So I'm gonna wrap my hood in this stuff probably, just to get it by for now. But yeah, there's that crappy looking hood. It's kind of funny, but come down here like factory again. No more monkeying around with those freaking aftermarket hot boy hood pins. Engine bay changes. So, as you remember, I previously had the factory S62 intakes leaving here and running down to the fender wells there with filters. I revised that and went with more of a direct shot, reusing the factory E46 intake ducting. I have straight tubes going right into the plenum here. I'm going to be adding a filter probably within the plenum or on the ends of these. Originally, there was some channeling inside of this duct. I was able to open up and separate the pieces, and all the channeling is now removed. So now it's just a wide open box pretty much for air to flow right into those two pipes. I also do plan to install some further ducting down here or an air scoop to further help direct air directly into this duct. I personally prefer this setup because of the looks of it and also for the performance like stock. This ducting works great. It sucks air directly from the kidney grills of the hood. Now having the filters down in there is great for getting that cooler, denser air entering the engine, but it also poses a risk for a street car. You can easily hydrolock your engine unintentionally if you hit a puddle or something. Yeah, sure, you can easily swerve to avoid puddles, but let's say you're driving in this car, often, you're not always going to remember to avoid puddles. I'm sorry, it's just how it happens. And it only takes one time for you to suck in some water and bend some rods, so it's not worth the risk. So back to more of a factory intake here. So as far as the interior goes, some things have been changed within here, including the door panels. I have reupholstered them to a fabric versus the original sagging leatherette that I had those makeshift airbag delete panels attached. So that involved disassembling the door panel, and yeah, it's a long process, but overall it's worth it. As you can see, there's no smaller speaker and no more airbag as the car no longer has those things, and the wiring has been removed, so no need for empty spots or ports. Just smooth them over. Additional key things here are going to be the steering wheel and the shifter. I originally had this steering wheel right here within the car. I since opted for a M3 or M Sport steering wheel without any buttons or controls because once again the car no longer has any of those. So very simple steering wheel with a nice thick grip. Feels much better in the hand. Also, another huge thing that changed the feel of the car for me is this OEM shifter. Originally, I had a big tall chassis mount. I hated that thing. Stock shifter As long as all the detents and the transmission are working properly, stock shifter with all new bushings and everything feels immensely better than a chassis mount. I ended up using a original M5 shifter assembly, and I modified it to fit the E46 chassis. So there we have a OEM shifter back in the car. And then the pedals down here, I originally had these on there. I went back to stock pedal pads. I like it. It feels better and looks better, at least in my opinion. And also, I made my own little M3 dead pedaler footrest down there by using factory parts, because you can no longer buy the M dead pedaler footrest for the sedans, so I had to make my own with the parts. We also threw in some floor mats that I had laying around just to keep the carpet more clean and easier to maintain. It needs cleaned, but yeah, back to OEM parts in here, and the car feels a lot better to drive. I feel more involved and just one with the car, having an OEM wheel and shifter. It really changed the whole feeling of the car for me, basically. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. I also went with a M rearview mirror for the oval shape. I much prefer the look of this mirror, mainly just for aesthetics. I didn't need to do this, but I really wanted it, so I did it. A M oval mirror, just to complete the overall the look, I guess. Yeah, just ties it all together, you know. I love this interior. I love this interior now. Okay, so there has been one problem so far, other than the hood flying open. Something else. A couple days ago, we had one of the warmest days of the year, and while I was test driving the car, I had a fueling problem. Why does the outdoor temperature matter? Okay, let me explain. I have to remove this cover in order to do so here, this cowl assembly. Cabin air filter tray, hollowed out, not fully done, but whatever. Okay, so I believe I had a vapor lock situation in my fuel system, meaning my fuel was boiling. Gasoline or fuel does not take much to boil. Under 200 degrees Fahrenheit at times. Now we're going to study my current fueling setup. Back here is my fuel pressure regulator, FPR. These engines run off a deadhead system, meaning there's no return at the fuel rail, so I have the FPR plumbed to do so. So on the right side of the FPR, right here is my fuel in coming into the FPR. That is my fuel outlet to the left. And on the bottom, down there, right there, is my fuel return. So we have fuel coming into the FPR, coming around, eventually ending up to this hose underneath here, which feeds the factory S62 fuel rails. I'm having a heat soaking problem, or at least I believe so, because of the way that I've routed the main feed to my rail. It runs off the FPR. Do not mind this bundle back here. These are extra sensors I'm not using, and I didn't want to cut them in case for future, so I just kind of tucked them. Anyway, this runs underneath the plenum of the engine. Underneath in here. So it's directly above the V of the engine. It's a hot area. You couple that with covering of the plenum, you cannot tell me that line is not heat soaking. So it comes a whole way underneath the intake here, wraps around, quick connect fitting to this steel line right here, which runs parallel to the valve cover, and then it snaps into the quick fitting of the OEM fuel line right there. That was stupid. Now, during the original assembly of this fuel feed line, I also thought to myself that it was stupid, but only for the time being. I have since not revised it because this was only meant to be temporary to get the engine running, not to be driving for long distances. So this line here, especially this steel piece, is heat soaking because heat rises, you know, engines get hot. So I'm pretty positive that my fuel is boiling within this line, causing a airlock or vapor lock situation. What that does is it causes your fuel pressure to fluctuate up and down, up and down, up and down. The engine dies, hard starting, stalling. Another symptom is the fuel pump gets super loud. This car is a full AN fuel line system. It has a fuel cell in the trunk with an inline pump. The fuel pump was screaming, so I figured it was going bad. But no, after coming home and thinking about it, it happened after a long drive. The engine would die immediately, and my fuel pressure would just go plung, 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 you know, fluctuate rapidly. Once the car cooled down, I had a steady, solid 70 psi. That's what these fuel rails want to see, a 70 psi at idle without vacuum at the FPR. So once everything cooled down, a solid 70 psi, and the car made it home. So that tells me I'm having a vapor lock situation because my fuel lines are getting too hot from heat soak because the way I routed the fuel, the main feed, like a Dumbass. So I'm going to revise that. I'm going to remove this whole piece here, unconnect it from underneath here, reroute it around here, and then come directly off the FPR straight to that rubber line right there somehow. Easy enough. So yes, something to take into consideration during an engine swap, because things happen. It's a freaking swap. You gotta experiment and test things out. Another symptom I was having was my fuel cell. I was literally hearing boiling. What the I tell you what, since my girlfriend brought this thing home from the store, it's been showing up randomly in spots throughout the house, usually brandishing weapons like this. I'm taking this damn teddy bear, give me the knife, back to the store. Douglas is a very sketchy, just very weird. I think he's There's also a lamb chop down here. I'll use the lamb chop to hold him down. Okay, so there was another symptom whenever the engine was repeatedly dying and shutting off. I was literally hearing bubbling or air bubbles in the fuel cell. That was telling me there was a problem. So, long story short, like I was saying, the fuel can easily boil. Let me turn off the flash here. The fuel can easily... I still can't get over that. The fuel was beginning to boil because the fuel pump, this is just my theory, okay? Whenever the fuel begins vapor locking up here, the fuel pump is working extra hard to push that fuel to the engine to deliver it. It's fighting air bubbles and, it's fighting. So the fuel pump itself is getting very hot too, which can also cause fuel to boil. So I was having boiling up there from heat soak, and also back here from excessive heat from the fuel pump, causing loud bubbling and surging within the fuel cell. After the engine would die, I would hear it rushing back in, clunk, 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 bubbling and stuff. So, yeah. I originally thought it was a bad fuel pump, but it wasn't making sense because a fuel pump just doesn't come back to life, after it cools down typically. So, heat soak. I'm believing it was vapor locking. Yeah, long story short, I'm going to revise that. And like I keep saying, it's an engine swap. Things are going to happen. You're going to have these problems. Okay, and there we have it. Hopefully you enjoyed the video regarding the V8 swapped E46. If you are not subscribed to the channel, I highly appreciate it. Until next time, I'll see you in the next one. Catch you later.